The morning air smelled like fresh bread and mountain flowers when the ships came. Hana Kim was carrying water buckets from the well when she saw the dark shapes moving across the orange sky. Her younger brother Minho ran up beside her, pointing at the strange vessels with excitement. "Look, sister, flying machines," Minho said, his eyes wide with wonder. "Are they traders from the big cities?" Hana set down her buckets and watched the ships descend toward their village. Something felt wrong. The ships were too big, too black, and they moved with purpose that made her stomach twist. She had never seen vessels like these in all her 16 years on Baekdu Prime. "Go find mother and father," she told Minho. "Tell them strangers are coming." The boy ran toward their small farmhouse, his bare feet kicking up dust on the dirt path. Hana stayed and watched as the ships landed in the village center. Tall figures in dark armor stepped out, their faces hidden behind metal masks that reflected the morning sun. Elder June Park, the village leader, walked toward the strangers with his walking stick. His old back was straight with dignity as he approached. Several other villagers followed him, including Hana's parents who came running from their house. "Welcome to Hanul village," Elder June called out in the common tongue. "We are simple farmers here. How can we help you?" The largest of the armored figures stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was cold and mechanical through his mask. "I am Commander Vex Thalner of the Vorth Empire. This settlement has been marked for relocation. You have 1 hour to gather your belongings and board our transport ships." Elder June's weathered face showed confusion. "Relocation? But honored commander, we have lived here for 3 generations. Our crops are ready for harvest. Surely there has been some mistake." "There is no mistake, old man." Commander Thalner's voice carried no emotion. "This world has been selected for military development. All human settlements must be removed." Hana felt her heart begin to race. She moved closer, staying behind the crowd of villagers who had gathered in the square. Her father stepped forward beside Elder June. "Commander, we are peaceful people," her father said. "We have never caused trouble. For the Empire, can we not find another solution? Perhaps we could share the land?" The commander turned his masked face toward Hana's father. For a long moment, silence filled the square. Then the commander raised his hand and made a sharp gesture. The other soldiers lifted their weapons. They were strange devices that hummed with energy. Hana had never seen guns before, but she knew death when she saw it. "The time for discussion is over," Commander Thalner said. "You will board the ships now, or you will be removed by force." Elder June planted his walking stick firmly in the ground. "And where would these ships take us? What world would become our new home?" The commander's laugh was like metal scraping metal. "There is no new home, old man. The Empire has no use for human colonies. You are a problem that needs to be solved permanently." The terrible truth hit the villagers like a cold wind. Women began to cry. Children pressed closer to their parents. Some of the younger men looked ready to fight, but what could farmers do against armored soldiers with energy weapons? "Run," Elder June whispered to those closest to him. "Run to the mountains. Hide in the caves." "Nobody runs," Commander Thalner said. He had heard the old man's words. "Begin the cleansing." The soldiers opened fire. Hana watched in horror as bright beams of energy cut down the people she had known all her life. Mrs. Seo, who had taught her to read, fell screaming. Young Tae-woo, who had asked to marry her just last month, died reaching for his infant daughter. "Hana, run!" Her father's voice cut through the chaos. She saw him pushing her mother toward the forest edge before an energy beam struck him in the chest. He fell without another word. Her mother screamed and tried to reach him, but more beams found her. She crumbled to the ground beside her husband, her hand stretched toward Hana. The world became madness. Smoke and fire and screaming filled the air. Hana stumbled backward, her mind refusing to accept what she was seeing. This could not be real. This could not be happening. "Sister, sister, help me." She turned and saw Minho trapped under a fallen piece of burning wood from their neighbor's house. The boy was crying, his small hands reaching for her. Without thinking, Hana ran toward him. Commander Thalner saw her movement. He strode through the burning village, stepping over bodies with no more care than if they were fallen logs. He reached Minho before Hana could get there. "Please," Hana begged, falling to her knees. "He is just a child. Please let him live." The commander looked down at Minho, then at Hana. She could see her own reflection in his metal mask, could see her face, twisted with terror and grief. "Children grow into adults," the commander said. "Adults become problems." He pointed his weapon at Minho's head. The boy looked up at his sister one last time. "I love you, Hana," Minho whispered. The energy beam silenced him forever. Something broke inside Hana's chest, something that could never be fixed. She felt her scream tear from her throat, felt her hands claw at the dirt, felt her world end in fire and death. Commander Thalner turned toward her, raising his weapon again, but Elder June appeared like a ghost from the smoke. The old man swung his walking stick with surprising strength, striking the commander's arm and spoiling his aim. "Go, child!" Elder June shouted. "Remember us. Remember what they did here." The commander's beam found the old man's heart. Elder June fell with a smile on his face, knowing he had saved one life from the slaughter. Hana ran. She ran through burning houses and over the bodies of her neighbors. She ran past the well where she had drawn water that morning, past the school where she had learned to write, past the little temple where her family had prayed every week. She ran into the forest as her world died behind her. 3 days later, she crawled out of a cave in the mountains. Her lips were cracked from thirst, her clothes were torn and dirty. Her hands shook as she pulled a communication device from the wreckage of a crashed Vorth patrol vehicle. She did not know how to use it properly, but desperation made her try. She pressed buttons and spoke into it, sending her voice into the darkness between stars. "This is Hana Kim from Hanel Village on Baekdu Prime," she whispered. "They killed everyone. The Vorth Empire killed my family. They killed my brother. If anyone can hear this, please help me. Please help me make them pay." The device crackled with static. Then, through the noise, came a voice. "Hana Kim, this is Captain Dae Choi of the Free Human Alliance. Hold your position. We are coming for you." As she waited in the ruins of her world, Hana made a promise to the stars above. She would not just survive. She would not just escape. She would make the Vorth Empire burn the way they had burned her village. She would make them pay for every life they had taken. Starting with Commander Vex Thalnor. 6 months had passed since the burning of Hanel Village. Hana Kim stood in the training room of New Seoul Station, sweat dripping from her face as she practiced with energy weapons. The underground base was hidden inside a dead asteroid, far from Vorth patrol routes. Captain Dae Choi watched her from the doorway. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and scars on his hands from years of fighting the Empire. His eyes held the same pain that Hana carried, the look of someone who had lost everything. "Your aim is getting better," he said as Hana hit the center of her target for the 10th time in a row. "But anger makes your hands shake. You need to control it." Hana lowered her weapon and turned to face him. "How can I control it when I see their faces every night? When I hear Minho calling for me in my dreams?" "Because anger without control is just noise," Captain Choi replied. "The Empire expects us to be angry. They do not expect us to be smart." He led her from the training room through the corridors of the base. Hundreds of people lived here now, all refugees from worlds the Vorth had destroyed. Some were fighters like Captain Choi. Others were scientists, engineers, doctors. All of them had lost someone to the Empire. They stopped at the laboratory where Dr. Mira Song was working. She was a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and gentle hands. Before the war, she had been a teacher on Earth. Now she studied Vorth, technology, looking for ways to fight back. "Hana." "Perfect timing," Dr. Song said, looking up from her work. "I want to show you something interesting." On her table was a strange device that looked like a metal spider. Its legs were thin wires that pulsed with soft blue light. "This is a Vorth neural implant," Dr. Song explained. "Every Vorth soldier has one in their brain. It controls their emotions, makes them more aggressive and obedient." Hana studied the device with interest. She had been learning about Vorth biology for months now, trying to understand her enemies. "How does it work?" "It sends signals to specific Parts of the brain, Dr. Song said. But here's the interesting part. We think we can hack it. We can change what signals it sends. Captain Choi leaned forward. Change them how? Instead of making them aggressive, we could make them peaceful. Instead of making them obey their leaders, we could make them question orders. Dr. Song's eyes lit up with excitement. We could turn their own soldiers against them. A young man entered the laboratory. He was Kai Lee, barely 20 years old, but already the best computer expert on the base. His fingers moved constantly, as if he was always typing on invisible keyboards. Captain, I have news about Commander Thalner, Kai said. Intelligence reports say he will be attending a diplomatic gathering on Vorth Prime next month. High-level meeting with all the top commanders. Hana felt her heart race at the mention of that name. Commander Vex Thalner, the man who had killed her brother, the man who had laughed while her village burned. Who else will be there? Captain Choi asked. Kai checked his datapad. General Roth Vex, the Supreme Military Commander. High Counselor Brennan Vex, the Emperor's brother. And get this, Thalner's daughter will be there too. Her name is Zira. She is 14 years old and being prepared for leadership. Dr. Song looked thoughtful. If we could get someone close to these high-ranking officers, someone who could plant hacking devices on their neural implants, it would be suicide, Captain Choi said firmly. The security around such a meeting would be impossible to break. Hana was quiet for a long moment. An idea was forming in her mind. Dangerous and probably impossible, but maybe their only chance. What if someone did not break the security? She said slowly. What if someone became part of it? The others looked at her with confusion. The Vorth. Use human servants, Hana continued. Translators, cleaners, assistants. They think we are too weak and stupid to be dangerous. What if one of those servants was actually one of us? Captain Choi shook his head. Too risky. You would be completely alone, surrounded by enemies. If they discovered who you were, they would kill me, Hana finished. Just like they killed my family. But if I succeeded, I could plant Dr. Song's devices on all the top commanders at once. I could strike at the heart of their leadership. Dr. Song was studying her with worry. Hana, this is not just about revenge anymore. We are talking about changing the course of the entire war. I know, Hana said. That is exactly why I have to do it. Kai pulled up files on his datapad. I can create false identity documents. Background records showing you worked as a translator on other worlds. But the physical changes? I can help with that, Dr. Song said quietly. Surgery to make you look more like the humans who serve the Vorth. Different facial structure, different eye color, it would be painful. Pain I can handle, Hana replied. I have been handling it for 6 months. Captain Choi walked to the window that looked out, into space. Beyond the glass, stars sparkled in the darkness. Somewhere among those stars was Vorth Prime, where the Empire's leaders planned their next attacks on human worlds. There is something else you should know, he said without turning around. Intelligence suggests the Empire is planning something big, multiple fleet movements, supply buildups. If we are going to act, it has to be soon. Hana felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders. This was bigger than revenge for her village. This was about saving every human colony still free, every child who had not yet been orphaned by Vorth guns. When do we start? She asked. Dr. Song began gathering her medical tools. The surgery will take 3 days, recovery another week, then 2 weeks of intensive training to learn Vorth customs and language. That gives us a month to prepare everything, Kai added. New identity, background story, getting you into position. Captain, Choi finally turned from the window. His face was grave but determined. Hana, I want you to understand something. Once you do this, there is no going back. You will be alone among the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. One mistake and you die. Hana thought of Minho's face, of Elder June's sacrifice, of her parents falling in the village square. She thought of all the children on all the worlds who deserved to grow up free. I have been alone since the day they burned my village, she said. But I am not fighting just for revenge anymore. I am fighting so no other child has to watch their family die. She looked at each of them in turn. I am fighting for justice, and justice is worth any risk. Captain Choi nodded slowly. Then we begin tomorrow. May the stars protect you, Hana Kim. You are about to attempt something no human has ever tried before. As they prepared to leave the laboratory, Dr. Song caught Hana's arm gently. Remember, she said softly, the goal is not to become like them. The goal is to stay human, no matter what you have to do to survive. Hana squeezed the older woman's hand. I will remember, and when this is over, I will come home. But as she walked back to her quarters, Hana wondered if that promise was one she could keep. The Imperial Palace on Vorth Prime rose like a black mountain against the purple sky. Hana Kim stood in the servants' quarters, wearing the simple gray uniform of a translator. Her face had been changed by surgery. Her eyes were now brown instead of black, and her cheekbones were different. Even she barely recognized herself in mirrors. For 2 weeks she had worked in the palace preparing for the diplomatic gathering. She cleaned floors, carried messages, and translated documents. The Vorth barely noticed her, just as Captain Choi had predicted. To them, she was invisible. But today was different. Today she would meet Commander Vex Thalnor's daughter. You, a harsh voice called. Hana turned to see a Vorth supervisor pointing at her. Report to the guest wing. You will assist the young lady Zira during the gathering. Hana bowed her head as she had been taught. Yes, honored supervisor. She walked through corridors lined with tapestries showing Vorth military victories. Each one displayed conquered worlds, defeated armies, burning cities. Her own world was probably shown somewhere in these halls, reduced to nothing more than decoration. The guest wing was quieter, more elegant. Soft music played from hidden speakers. The walls were covered with art, instead of war scenes. This was where the Empire's elite lived, far from the violence they ordered. She found the right door and knocked softly. Come in, a young voice called. Hana entered the room and saw her target for the first time. Zira Thalnor was 14 years old with pale blue skin and silver hair, typical of the Vorth nobility. She wore a simple dress and was reading a book. By the window. You must be my new translator, Zira said, looking up with bright purple eyes. What is your name? I am called Nari, young lady, Hana replied, using the false name Kai had given her. Just Zira is fine, the girl said with a smile. I do not like the formal titles. They make me feel old. This was not what Hana had expected. She had prepared to hate this child, to see Commander Thalnor's cruelty reflected in his daughter. Instead, she found someone who seemed almost normal. Is there anything you need me to translate today? Hana asked. Zira held up her book. I am reading human poetry. Some of the words are difficult. Do you know what compassion means? The question hit Hana like a punch. She had not expected to discuss human poetry with the daughter of the man who killed her brother. Compassion means caring about others' pain, Hana said carefully. It means wanting to help when someone is hurt. That is what I thought, Zira said, looking back at the book. This poem is about a human mother who lost her child in a war. She writes about forgiving the soldiers who killed him. How is that possible? Hana felt her throat tighten. I do not know, lady. Perhaps some pain is too great for forgiveness. Zira closed the book and walked to the window. Outside, the city of Vorth Prime stretched to the horizon, its towers gleaming in the afternoon light. My father returns today, she said quietly. He has been gone for months, leading military campaigns. I have not seen him since my last birthday. You must miss him, Hana said, though the words felt like poison in her mouth. I suppose, Zira replied. But I also fear his return. He becomes different when he comes back from campaigns. Harder, colder. He sees enemies everywhere. There was something in the girl's voice that made Hana look at her more carefully. Was that sadness? Fear? What do you mean, different? Hana asked. Zira was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. He has nightmares. He wakes up screaming about fire and blood. Sometimes he does not recognize me for minutes at a time. The court doctors say it is normal for soldiers, but she trailed off. But what? But I have read his mission reports. The things he has done to human colonies. The families he has destroyed. Zira turned from the window with tears in her purple eyes. How can a father who reads me bedtime stories also burn children alive on distant worlds? Hana felt the world shift around her. This was not the monster she had expected. This was a confused girl struggling with the truth about her father. Perhaps, Hana said very carefully, people can change. Perhaps they can choose to be better than what the war has made them. Do you really believe that? Zira asked hopefully. Before Hana could answer, the door burst open. Commander Vex Thalnor strode into the room, still wearing his black military uniform. He was exactly as Hana remembered him, tall and cruel, with cold eyes that seemed to see everything. Father! Zira ran to embrace him, but he barely acknowledged her hug. Daughter, I trust you have been preparing for tonight's gathering. His voice was flat, mechanical. Yes, father. This is Nari, my new translator. Commander Thalnor's gaze fell on Hana. For a terrifying moment she thought he might recognize her. But his eyes showed only mild interest. Human, he said dismissively. See that my daughter is ready for the ceremony. The High Counselor expects perfection tonight. Yes, honored Commander, Hana replied, bowing her head. Thalnor turned back to his daughter. Remember what we discussed, Zira. Tonight you will meet the other young nobles. It is time you learned your place in the Empire's future. After he left, Zira sat heavily on her bed. The joy she had shown when he entered was completely gone. He did not even ask how I have been, she said sadly. 6 months away, and he cares more about the ceremony than his own daughter. Hana sat beside her, fighting every instinct that told her to hate this girl. Perhaps the war has changed him. Perhaps he does not know how to be a father anymore. Or perhaps he never did. Zira replied. Nari, can I tell you a secret? Hana nodded. I do not want to be part of the Empire's future. I do not want to rule over conquered worlds and destroyed families. When I read about what our soldiers do to human colonies, she shuddered. I have nightmares too. That night, at the diplomatic gathering, Hana watched the Empire's leaders celebrate their victories. She saw General Roth Vex, Commander Thalnor's father, giving speeches about the glory of conquest. She saw High Counselor Brennan Vex planning new campaigns against human worlds, and she saw Zira sitting quietly at the young noble's table, looking miserable. During a break in the ceremony, Hana approached her. Lady Zira, you seem troubled. Look, around us, Nari, Zira whispered. They are celebrating death. They are planning more wars, more destruction, and someday they expect me to lead these campaigns. Hana made a decision that would change everything. What if I told you there was another way? She said quietly. What if I told you that you could choose peace instead of war? Zira looked at her with desperate hope. How? There are people working to end this war. People who believe the Vorth and humans could live in peace, but they need help from someone inside the Empire. You mean rebels? Zira's eyes widened. I mean people who want to build instead of destroy. People who believe your father's nightmares do not have to become your destiny. For a long moment, Zira stared at her. Then very quietly she asked, what would I have to do? Hana felt her heart racing. This was the moment that would decide everything. She thought of Dr. Song's neural hacking devices hidden in her quarters. She thought of the plan to reprogram the Empire's leadership. Would you be willing to help me access the palace's central computer systems? Hana asked. If we could change how the Empire's leaders think, if we could make them see the cost of war. You want to change their neural implants, Zira said, understanding immediately. You want to make them feel compassion instead of aggression. Hana nodded. It might be the only way to end the killing without more death. Zira was quiet for a long time. Around them, the celebration continued. Her father was laughing with other commanders planning the destruction of more human worlds. If I help you, Zira said finally, and my father discovers what I have done, He will probably kill you, Hana said honestly. This is not a small risk. But if I do nothing, how many more children will die in places like your homeworld? Zira asked. Hana's breath caught. Did the girl know who she really was? Zira smiled sadly. I may be young, Nari, but I am not stupid. Your accent, the way you flinch when you see my father, the pain in your eyes when you think no one is watching. You lost someone to the Empire, did you not? Hana nodded slowly. My brother, my parents, my entire village. Then we both have reasons to want this war to end, Zira said. Yes, I will help you, but we must be very careful. My father trusts no one, especially not his own daughter. As they returned to the celebration, Hana realized that everything had changed. She had come here for revenge, but she had found something unexpected instead. She had found an ally in the most unlikely place of all. 3 days after the diplomatic gathering, Hana received an unexpected message. Zira had arranged a private audience with High Counselor Brennan Vex, claiming she needed to discuss her future role in the Empire. It was the perfect opportunity to reach the central command systems. Are you certain about this? Hana asked as they walked through the palace corridors toward the High Counselor's chambers. Once we start, there is no turning back. Zira's young face was set with determination. I have been thinking about those human children in the poetry book, about all the children who will never write poems because of what we have done to their worlds. Yes, I am certain. Hidden in Hana's translator bag were Dr. Song's neural hacking devices, each one no bigger than a coin. The plan was simple but dangerous. While Zira distracted the High Counselor, Hana would access the central neural command system and upload the reprogramming virus. They reached the outer chamber where 2 guards stood at attention. Zira approached them with the confidence of nobility. I am expected, she announced, Lady Zira Thalner to see the High Counselor. The guards bowed and opened the massive doors. Inside, High Counselor Brennan Vex sat behind a desk that seemed carved from a single piece of black stone. He was an older Vorth with white hair and scarred hands, the Emperor's brother and the real power behind the throne. Young Zira, he said, with a cold smile. Your father tells me you have been asking difficult questions about the Empire's methods. I have, honored counselor, Zira replied calmly. I want to understand my place in our future. And what conclusions have you reached? While Zira engaged the High Counselor in conversation, Hana moved quietly toward the computer terminal built into the wall. Her hands shook slightly as she connected Dr. Song's device to the system. I believe the Empire is strong, Zira was saying, but I wonder if there are ways to expand our power without destroying everything we conquer. Interesting perspective, the High Counselor mused. Tell me more. The upload began. Hana watched the progress bar creep forward slowly. 20%, 30. If they were discovered now, both she and Zira would die horribly. Perhaps, Zira continued, if we treated conquered peoples as subjects rather than enemies, we could gain their loyalty instead of their hatred. 50%. 60. The High Counselor leaned forward. You sound almost like you sympathize with our enemies. Child, not sympathize, Zira said quickly, but I think there might be more efficient ways to achieve our goals. 70%. 80. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Red lights flashed in the corridors outside. Hana's blood went cold as she realized what was happening. It seems we have intruders, the High Counselor said, standing. Guards! The door burst open, but instead of guards, Commander Vex Thalner strode in with a squad of soldiers. His face was twisted with rage. Father, Zira said, her voice trembling. What is happening? What is happening, Commander Thalner snarled, is that my daughter has been consorting with rebels and traitors. 90%, 95. Hana kept her hands steady on the computer, trying to look like a terrified servant. Just a few more seconds. Search them, Commander Thalner ordered. Find the devices. 100%. Upload complete. The soldiers grabbed Hana and found the hacking device immediately. Commander Thalner examined it with growing fury. Neural reprogramming technology, he said coldly. Very sophisticated, very illegal. He turned to his daughter. How long have you been working with the human resistance, Zira? Father, I can explain. You can explain nothing, he roared. You are my daughter, my blood, and you betray everything we stand for. The High Counselor was studying Hana with interest. This servant, I assume she is not who she appears to be. Commander Thalner grabbed Hana's chin and forced her to look at him. This time, recognition flared in his cold eyes. No, she is not, he said slowly. Remove the surgical modifications, I want to see her real face. Dr. Song's changes had been temporary, designed to fade over time. The soldiers used a medical scanner that accelerated the process. Hana felt her face burning as her original features returned. Commander Thalner's smile was terrible to see. Hana, Kim of Hanil Village, he said. I remember you now. The little girl who watched her family burn. You were supposed to die with the rest of them. You remember my village? Hana asked, surprised by her own calm. I remember every world I have, cleansed, he replied. Yours was particularly satisfying. Your brother made such interesting sounds when I killed him. Zira gasped in horror. Father, what are you saying? I am saying your new friend here is the sole survivor of a settlement I destroyed 6 months ago. Commander Thalner explained casually. She has come here seeking revenge for her dead family. You killed her family? Zira's voice was barely a whisper. I killed everyone on her pathetic little world, he said proudly. Just as I will kill everyone on a dozen more worlds this year. Something broke in Zira's eyes. The last of her illusions about her father crumbled away. How could you? She whispered. How could you murder children and then come home and read me bedtime stories? Because that is what soldiers do. Commander Thalner replied coldly. We do what is necessary for the Empire. No, Zira said, her voice growing stronger. That is what monsters do. The commander's face darkened. You will not speak to me that way, daughter. You will learn proper respect even if I have to beat it into you. The way you beat respect into the children you murdered? Commander Thalner backhanded his daughter across the face. She fell to the floor, blood trickling from her lip. That is enough, he said. You have been contaminated by human weakness, but that can be corrected. The court surgeons will adjust your neural implant to remove these troublesome thoughts. You would lobotomize your own daughter? The High Counselor asked, seeming genuinely surprised. If necessary to save her from herself, Commander Thalner replied. She is young. The damage can be repaired. Hana knelt beside Zira and helped her sit up. The girl's purple eyes were filled with tears and rage. I am sorry, Hana whispered. I am sorry you had to learn the truth this way. I am not, Zira replied. Better to know what he really is. Commander Thalner was talking to his soldiers, giving orders for their execution, but Hana noticed something else. Throughout the palace she could hear sounds of confusion. Shouts, running footsteps, more alarms. The neural reprogramming had begun. Sir, one of the soldiers said hesitantly, I am receiving strange reports from other sectors. Some of our people are refusing orders. Others are asking questions about our mission parameters. Commander Thalner frowned. What kind of questions? Questions about civilian casualties, sir. About the necessity of destroying entire populations. The High Counselor's face went pale. The virus. It is already spreading through the neural network. Throughout Vorth Prime, soldiers were beginning to question orders they had always followed without thought. Pilots were refusing to bomb civilian targets. Ground troops were laying down weapons rather than fire on defenseless populations. Father, Zira said, struggling to her feet, it is over. Your empire of cruelty is ending. Nothing is over, Commander Thalner screamed. I will purge every contaminated implant. I will rebuild the network from scratch. With what? Hana asked. Half your military is already affected. The other half will be infected within hours. Your own soldiers will not obey orders to commit genocide. The sounds of fighting reached them from elsewhere in the palace. Vorth soldiers with reprogrammed implants were turning against those still, under the old programming. This ends now, Commander Thalner snarled. He drew his sidearm and pointed it at Hana's head. You will stop this virus or I will kill you both. I cannot stop it, Hana said truthfully. It is designed to spread through the entire network automatically. In 12 hours, every fourth military implant in the galaxy will be reprogrammed. Then you have doomed your own species, he replied, because I will make sure every human world burns before that happens. He activated his communicator and began giving orders to ships still under his control. All vessels, commence immediate bombardment of human colonies. Target population centers first. But the responses he received were not what he expected. Sir, we cannot comply. The targeting systems are showing civilian casualties in the millions. Sir, my crew is refusing to fire on non-military targets. Sir, this is Admiral Park. Our fleet has been reprogrammed. We are no longer taking orders from command. Commander Thalner's face went white with rage. Mutiny! Treason! I will have... You all executed. But there was no one left to carry out his threats. Zira stepped forward and placed her hand on her father's weapon, gently pushing it down. It is over, father, she said sadly. The war is over. Now we must learn to live with what we have done. For a moment, Commander Thalner looked lost, confused. Then rage filled his eyes again. If I cannot have victory, he snarled, then I will have revenge. He pressed the gun against his daughter's temple. The Empire may fall, he said to Hana, but you will watch another innocent die because of your choices. Hana felt time slow down. She had saved the galaxy, but she was about to lose the one person who had shown her that even enemies could change. In that moment, she made her own choice. She threw herself forward, just as Commander Thalner pulled the trigger. The energy blast meant for Zira struck Hana in the shoulder, spinning her around and sending her crashing to the floor. Pain exploded through her body, but she was alive. More importantly, Zira was alive. Commander Thalner stared at his weapon in confusion. Why did you do that? She is nothing to you, just another enemy. Hana struggled to sit up, her left arm hanging useless at her side. Because she is not my enemy anymore. She is a child who chose to do the right thing, even when it meant betraying her own father. Sentiment, Commander Thalner spat. Human weakness, that is why your species deserves extinction. But even as he spoke, more sounds of fighting reached them from the corridors. Vorth soldiers with reprogrammed implants were engaging those still loyal to the old regime. The Empire was tearing itself apart. High Counselor Brennan Vex had been watching the exchange with calculating eyes. Now he stepped forward. Commander, perhaps it is time to consider negotiation. If the neural reprogramming cannot be stopped, there will be no negotiation, Thalner roared. I would rather see the galaxy burn than surrender to humans. That choice is no longer yours to make, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see an elderly human man entering the chamber. He was tall and dignified, with white hair and eyes that held decades of wisdom and pain. Behind him walked Captain Dae Choi and a squad of human soldiers. Master Won Kim, Captain Choi, said with obvious respect. I thought you were dead. The old man smiled sadly. Death would have been easier, my friend. Instead, I have spent 20 years working as an advisor to the Vorth leadership, waiting for this moment. Commander Thalner raised his weapon again, but found himself surrounded by soldiers from both species. Some were human resistance fighters. Others were Vorth troops whose reprogrammed implants now made them see the truth about their empire's crimes. Impossible, Thalner whispered. You are human. The Empire would never trust a human with high-level access. The Empire trusted me, because I told them what they wanted to hear, Master Won replied. I helped them plan their military campaigns while secretly feeding information to the Resistance. I positioned humans in key roles throughout your government, while you congratulated yourselves on how clever you were to use us as servants. He gestured to the chaos outside. This moment, this revolution, has been 50 years in the making. Your daughter's choice to help Miss Kim was simply the final piece of a much larger plan. Zira knelt beside Hana, pressing cloth against her wounded shoulder. You saved my life, she said softly. After everything my father did to you, you still saved me. Because that is what humans do, Hana replied, echoing Captain Choi's old words. We choose to be better than our pain. Commander Thalner's face was twisted with hatred. Pretty words will not save your species. Even with the neural reprogramming, there are still ships loyal to me. Still weapons that can destroy your precious human worlds. Actually, Master One said gently, there are not. He activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Vorth military installations, while blue showed human colonies. But as they watched, more and more red dots turned green. Green represents Vorth forces that have laid down their weapons, Master Wan explained. As you can see, the reprogramming is proceeding faster than we hoped. Your soldiers are not just refusing orders to harm civilians. They are actively protecting them. The display showed Vorth ships that had been ordered to bomb human cities instead, landing with medical supplies. Ground troops were helping evacuate refugees rather than creating them. This is not victory, Commander Thalner snarled. This is contamination. You have infected my people with weakness and sentiment. We have infected them with compassion, Hana corrected, with the ability to see that the war never had to happen, that Vorth and humans could have been allies instead of enemies. High Counselor Brennan Vex was studying the tactical display with professional interest. The strategic implications are staggering. If our military will no longer follow orders to commit genocide, the entire structure of the Empire becomes unsustainable. The Empire as you knew it is already over, Master Wan confirmed, but something better can take its place. A federation where Vorth and humans work together, where strength comes from cooperation rather than conquest. Never, Commander Thalner said. I will die before I see such an abomination. That can be arranged, Captain Choi said coldly, his weapon trained on the commander, but Zira stood up, placing herself between her father and the human soldiers. No more killing, she said firmly. That is how this war started. That is how it will end only if we choose to be better. She turned to face her father. You taught me that strength was about destroying enemies, but I have learned that real strength is about making enemies into friends. Commander Thalner stared at his daughter as if seeing her for the first time. You are not my child anymore. You have become something alien, something weak. I have become something better than what you made me, Zira replied. And someday, you could too. The commander's laugh was bitter. You think your neural virus can change me? I had my implant removed years ago. I am pure Vorth, unspoiled by artificial modifications. Then the choice is yours, Zira said simply. You can choose to continue the cycle of violence, or you can choose peace. For a moment, something flickered in Commander Thalner's eyes. A hint of the father who had once read bedtime stories to his little girl. But then his face hardened again. I choose honor, he said. I choose the old ways. He turned his weapon on himself, but Captain Choi was faster. The energy blast knocked the gun from Thalner's hand, leaving him unconscious on the floor. Some choices should not be made in anger, Captain Choi said quietly. 3 months later, Hana stood in the rebuilt square of Hanal village. The settlement had been reconstructed as a memorial and school where human and Vorth children could learn together. A statue of Elder June stood in the center, with words carved in both languages. From the ashes of hatred, wisdom grows. From the seeds of understanding, peace flourishes. Zira approached, carrying a small bundle of mountain flowers. She was no longer dressed in noble robes but wore simple work clothes like the other volunteers helping to rebuild. How is your shoulder? She asked, placing the flowers at the base of Elder June's statue. Better every day, Hana replied. Dr. Song says I will have full use of it again soon. They walked together toward the new school building, where the sound of children's laughter echoed from the classrooms. Human and Vorth children played together in the yard, their games creating new traditions from old enemies. Any word about your father? Hana asked gently. Zira's expression was sad but peaceful. He is in a medical facility on Earth. The doctors say his mind was damaged by years of violence and artificial stimulation. They are trying to help him remember who he was before the war changed him. Do you think he can be saved? I have to believe he can, Zira replied. If I give up hope for him, how can I ask others to believe that peace is possible? They stopped at a hill overlooking the village where Hana's family was buried. Simple stones marked their graves, with names carved in the old earth writing that Elder June had taught her. Do you think they would be proud? Hana asked, touching her brother's gravestone. Of what we accomplished. I think they would be proud that you chose to build instead of destroy, Zira said, that you turned your pain into something that could heal the galaxy. A transport ship was landing in the distance, bringing more volunteers to help with the reconstruction. Among them would be former Vorth soldiers whose reprogrammed implants had opened their eyes to the cost of their actions. Many now spent their lives trying to make amends for the worlds they had destroyed. The New Republic is offering me a position, Hana said. Ambassador to the reformed Vorth territories. They want someone who understands both the pain and the potential for healing. Will you accept? Hana looked at the village where her journey had begun, then at the school where it was continuing. Yes, but not because I want power or recognition, because there are still children on both sides who need to know that their parents' wars do not have to become their destiny. Zira smiled. The old Hana would have wanted revenge. The new Hana wants to prevent the need for revenge. What about you? The New Republic has offered you leadership positions as well. I think I will stay here for now, Zira said, watching the children play. Help build this school. Learn how to be a teacher instead of a warrior. Maybe someday I will be ready to help lead. But first I need to understand what I am leading toward. That evening they sat together on the porch of the new community center, watching the sun set over the mountains. The sky was clear and peaceful, no longer marked by the trails of warships. Do you think it will last? Zira asked. This peace we have built? I think it will last as long as we remember the cost of losing it, Hana replied. As long as we tell the stories of what happened here, and why we chose to be better. A young Vorth child ran up to them, followed by a human girl, about the same age. Teacher Zira, the Vorth child said in carefully practiced human language. Will you tell us the story again? About the village that burned and the girl who saved the galaxy? It is not a story about saving the galaxy, Zira corrected gently. It is a story about choosing to save each other. It is not a story about saving the galaxy, Zira corrected gently. It is a story about choosing to save each other. As she began to tell the tale, Hana closed her eyes and listened to the sound of children learning to build bridges instead of walls. Somewhere in the distance, a nightbird sang the same song her mother used to hum while working in the garden. The galaxy had been broken and remade. The empire had fallen and risen again as something better. And in a small village where it all began, two former enemies had become sisters in the cause of peace. Elder June had been right, Hana thought. From the ashes of hatred, wisdom could grow, and from the seeds of understanding, peace could flourish for generations to come. The war was over. The healing had begun. And tomorrow, the children would wake up in a galaxy where they could choose to be better than their parents' pain.